Oh, nothing. I was just thinking about last night's show, and I heard a little bit of Kyle's response early on about the state of Christianity and Judaism and stuff like that. And I heard the two of you guys talking, and there was this argument being made that organized Christianity is cucked, and it organized Christianity says something about Christianity in general. And then there was a point, maybe 90 seconds later, about how the Board of Deputies is just one group of Jews, so that doesn't reflect Judaism in any way. And Kyle sort of makes like this overall, like his overall theme of his response earlier seems to be that just because something is the way it is now, it's going to continue to be. And he also projects it backwards. We've seen it in the argument about whites. He clings to a thesis and just cannot let go in the face of obvious evidence. So he ends up in making ridiculous arguments about how whites lived in multicultural harmony with Indians and such. And when it comes to Kyle, you talk about arguing based in reality and things like that, based on your observations of what is right now, and things can change, and they will change, and it is perfectly reasonable to talk to give a different narrative, a different moral narrative from what exists now. I mean, think about like the successes of the left making arguments about the morality of homosexual rights and civil rights for minorities and things like that. I mean, at the time they were making the arguments in the case for shifting the morality of the population, they were not in the mainstream. I guess there was uh, 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 a current that moved with them or whatever, and currents change. The point being is that, like, don't try to hamper people with this idea that like we have to cling to the status quo. Like, oh, the dissident right should basically be the mainstream. The dissident right should accept all mainstream positions. I guess with the exception of HBD. I mean, that's the only one that's acceptable. The only one. And I just outright I outright reject it. Also, I would say, Kyle, I can't remember the fellow you turned me on to the guy's blog. He has this thrive survive uh, hypothesis about left versus right. The
Slate
left
Star
being,
Codex.
I'm sorry, who?
Slate Star Codex.
Right. Yes, Light Star
Yeah.
Codex. Right. So his thrive survive dichotomy between left and right. Your arguments always tend to be about thriving in the current system. I mean, this is part of why I don't think you're a right winger. I think you're constantly making the case for modernity, constantly making the case for adapting to this status quo, which is inherently left wing egalitarian. So
I do disagree with your characterization of my argument about the Indians, but I don't want to rehash that right now. What I want to say is that it's very familiar to me to see groups purity spiral and groups become really radical based on it's almost a mystery cult type vibe, right? You have this attitude of the inner group which is aware of all these facts, of all these realities that completely change the way that they look at the world. And it's familiar to me, like specifically, you can look at MRAs, you can look at MGTOW, you can look at the Church of Scientology. And I'm intimately familiar with all of these groups. And you see the exact same dynamics here and in the dissident right, in those places and in the dissident right. You see people believe in sort of the malleability of society, the fragility of society, to these amazing truths which they understand and which are transformative of their understanding of the world. And every single time, it's just crazy when looked at from an outside perspective, right? And when you see that again and again, you just sort of look and you say, okay, I see what's happening. We're having a bunch of people who rile each other up and who get more and more and more into a purity spiral and somehow believe that the world is on the cusp of a huge amount of change that's going to be exactly in line with their ideology. And every single time it's crazy. When change happens, I'm always looking at historical examples. When change happens, it's the result of very functional groups rather than dysfunctional groups. It's a result of a lot of groups that have energy behind them in a way that's described very eloquently by a certain article in Slate's Dark Codex, where you have these ideas that gain energy, that are full of just the best people, of highly qualified people, of rich people, of people who have the energy behind them. Even if the ideology is sort of radical, in the case of communism, it just has a lot of energy behind it. What we see with the This Isn't Right is the beginning of this, sort of the genesis of this. There's a seed of that, and there's an accretion that begins, but it ends fundamentally because there's too much dysfunction within it. There's too much infighting, and there's too much craziness inside of it, deep inside of it. And unlike, say, Scientology, but like the MGTOW movement and the MRA movement, there is no policing apparatus which keeps things stable, which keeps things actually under control. So it just crumbles. It's this sort of infinite dissipation that arises from all the uncontrolled conflict and the purity spiraling, which has no end. So I don't look at this and see something that's going to take over the world, or even something that's going to make a significant change to the world. And making a specific change to certain kinds of discourse is a much lesser ask than asking to revolutionize society. And that's why I keep on trying to limit the scope of one's goals, because that increases the chance of success. And the right way to think about it is you want your goal to be as limited as possible so that you can then succeed at that and then move to the next goal, next goal, next goal. It's really, really bad,
but Kyle,
expansive goal that relies on revolutionizing all of society. This almost always fails, and when it succeeds, it's in large part due to circumstances which are outside your control, circumstances like wars and foreign interference coming in and rescuing you from your low down position.
But Kyle, I don't understand the need to and it's a straw man to say, like, just because someone has maybe idealism or a complete worldview that's revolutionary, that they're not capable of strategically moving the ball on specific issues as they become available. I mean, I think we see that the dissident right has been, or sort of, the marginalized, nationalistic. I mean, what we're really talking about is right-wing nationalism. Okay, like nationalism has entered the discourse, the Overton window, as regards to immigration. Okay, like there is this sense. You have Tucker Carlson asking why everybody is anti-white. Okay, on television. Now he is like someone that is directly affecting the mainstream, but there are intellectuals. They're intellectuals.
Okay, Brando, your sound's really bad. I don't know what happened. So we got the gist of your point. Kevin, is there anything that you've heard in the last 8 minutes you'd like to comment on?
The world is a lot more random than Kyle understands. Look at the French Revolution. Okay, we're going to call the Estates General. We're going to bring the monarchy down a peg or two. And then the next thing you know, they are killing the king and the queen, and shortly after that, the country goes completely insane with mass killings, and then a dictator, Napoleon, has to show up to take it over. If you look at the Russian Revolution, you see Lenin pretty much abandoning it. What, in 1920 with the NEP, with the new economic policy. We're going to be talking about Eric Kaufman's book, White Shift, tomorrow, and I would recommend that Kyle read it. Kaufman, I can't say that I share his prescriptions for the future, but Kaufman is honest enough to admit that he was shocked by Brexit, he was shocked by Trump's election, and that clearly right-wing populism has made an enormous difference to the West in a way that all the experts thought was not possible. Now, as far as Kyle goes, I'm suspicious of everything you say. I mean, you have some good insights from time to time, but essentially you have no Weltanschauung, a worldview. Everything with you is situational, and everything with you is personal.
Kyle.
Not everything. Not everything is personal. Just when people basically specifically tell me, better be careful, Jew, or things are going to go badly for you. That's a personal threat, and I take it personally, and I respond to it. And I'm not going to back down from personal threats. I'm going to double down in the face of threats. I think that when people in a weak position throw out threats, it's a sign of mental illness, and it needs to be slapped down for their own mental health. Now, in terms of
nobody's threatening, dude. It's
let
like
him finish his point, Brundle.
Friendly
there are
warning.
implicit threats that are constantly coming out. It's implicit threats constantly coming out that people try to dodge around and say it's not a threat, it's a warning. That's always horseshit. Now, we're not talking about right-wing nationalism. It's not nationalism. It's explicitly anti-national. It's constantly counter-signaling the United States. It's constantly counter-signaling the demographics, the existing demographics of the United States, and it's trying to create a radically new nation which would be founded on the ashes of the current nation. That's not nationalism. What rises is nationalistic populism, not this sort of radical attempt to radically shift the nation towards something completely new that would require a huge wave of violence to actually enact. That's not what has energy behind it. What has energy behind it is right-wing populism based on strong borders, based on the interests of the people, of the citizens who are already here, based on loyalty to the citizens who are already here, not based on mass revocation of citizenship, mass expulsion, and probable civil war. That's not the basis of the populist wave at all. The basis of the populist wave, in large part, is the idea of a law and order, of the existing order reasserting itself. As you can see with Bolsonaro, with Duterte, with Trump to a large extent, it's about restoring order. It's about bringing someone in who will set things right, set things back to the old ways, make America great again, make America's institution loyal again. It's not about revolution, about radical change. And
okay, thanks, Kyle. I want to get Matt in here. Matt, you were polishing your passport. What's going on there, Matt?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I was polishing it. I was getting it ready. So I just listened to last night's stream today while I was working in my Bugman office. It was interesting, man. I never realized I triggered Kyle so bad. That was never really my intention, telling him to polish his passport. I've got some passports here of my own. I've got 2 passports as well, but both of them are American. And the reason is, the first one got filled up with too many visas. I didn't have space, so I had to buy a bigger one. So can I tell a story? I promise not to hold the mic. I'm gonna let you finish. No,
you got 5 minutes, bro. Go.
But so let me explain something. So I went to India for the first time when I was 20 years old to preach the gospel. Okay, and I was so infected with the joy of it. I went back 2 more times. And what we would do is we would rent a platform and just go out into a field and preach, and thousands of people will come just for the simple fact that there's nothing else to do but to stare at cows. Okay. But my third and final time that I went, we incited a riot, and men from that little town we were in took literal pitchforks and shovels and went to, I don't know really what you would call it, I guess like the mayor's office, and demanded we leave or they were going to start killing people. So, we decided we'll go. I mean, it's not worth seeing Christians die just so we can preach. We had 2 days of meetings, and this was the 3rd day anyway, so it's not a big deal. So we went ahead and left, and it was fine. I got to fly home first class. I didn't even pay for it. It's the only time I've flown first class in my life, so that's God rewarding me, So that's one story. The next story is I mentioned I was a missionary in Russia, and I really probably shouldn't talk about it because I still know people there, but that's okay. Putin's my homeboy, but not really, because the only reason I'm in America now is because when I tried to go back, they wouldn't let me in, and it's because they figured out what I was doing. I wasn't there on a religious visa. I was there on a work visa, and so I had a job. I was lined up to teach at the University of Law in Khabarovsk, but they found out I was doing some underhanded, subversive missionary stuff, and they said, no, we're not going to let you in. Okay, so the simple fact is, when you preach stuff that people don't like, a lot of times it gets you kicked out. And I've been kicked out of countries twice, okay? Real world, okay? And so, Kyle, I think you need to calm down a little bit and not be a crybaby just when people use bad words. Okay, because I've experienced like the real kick out with like pitchforks and forks. Pitchforks and, well, they probably had real forks too. They probably had forks. The reason I say that is because, you know, when you get online and say stuff that people don't like, they get ticked. And you might think you're using facts and logic, but that doesn't matter. The Hindus and the Muslims joined forces against me because they didn't like what I was saying. Okay? You just have to watch your words, man. And that is not a threat. I'm sure low IQ Levi's in the chat saying, "Oh, it's a threat," but that's okay. He's so high, you know, on weed, he can't understand when someone's trying to preach reason. You know, he's with Babs, and God bless Babs. I wanted to say one thing. I've been following Luke Ford for a year. Okay, I've never gotten on stream and told Babs to leave. I've never gotten on stream and told Duvid to leave. And Duvid is like the merchant meme made flesh. Okay, I don't hate Duvid. Do I think he's weird? Yes, I think he's weird. But he doesn't trigger me. Kyle, you need to really reflect and think, what is it in you that makes people so ticked? You need to look in the mirror. See, I'm actually shaking, and I'll admit it, because I'm a man, okay? I didn't sleep Monday because of you, buddy. There's something in you that makes people mad. And I'm not even alt-right. I'm not Nazi. I hate Richard Spencer. I think he's an idiot, okay? I'm a Christian minister who spent all of his 20s preaching to the third world, okay, with brown people. And I would gladly go live in India if they let me, but they don't want me. So you really need to self-reflect and figure out what it is that makes people hate you so bad, okay? All right, I'll come back later for Theater Thursday. See, that's the thing. That's the stuff I like. I like to talk about art and stuff. I don't even like this JQ BS. I think it's a bunch of self-reflect.
Okay, it's Brundle's turn, and then we'll get Kyle in here. So, Brundle, go ahead.
Oh, I really like what Matt just had to say. I completely agree. And this is the thing, like what Kyle interprets as threats is truly like you know, I do have a part Jewish son and a half Jewish wife. Like, you think I want pogroms of Jews? But like, as a white guy, and I know how the audience reacts, it's what Matt just talked about. Like, you cannot behave in this way. And like I was talking on my show today, Aaron Amahud, who is in Israel, Jewish guy, he thinks Kyle and Duvid are amazing because they're going to get all the Jews to come back, you know? He's like, every time Kyle opens my mouth, like, I get excited because I want all the Jews to come back to Israel and join me, you know? And I think it's absolutely the effect. Now, also to Kyle's point about nationalism, Kyle, you confuse like statism, like worship of the American state, the United States government, and with the American nation. A nation is a people. It's like similar to an ethnicity, like kind of like the Kurds are a Kurdish nation, even though they don't have a state or national boundaries. You know, nationalism is the idea that different nations deserve states. That, you know, we no longer have a nation state. America has become an empire. Our criticism is of imperial America, not of America the nation. And so, yeah, the problem is like, you're not a member of the American nation, so you're never going to be able to, like, and this is the thing, like, this audience is mostly, well, they're not all American per se, but they're basically European nationalists with some European presenting Jews who I guess have either sympathies or agree on some issues. But you're never going to like convince, not that they're white nationalists, but like Europeans with nationalist sentiments to like adopt your program, because your program is just not European. And I also want to say, like, there is nationalism, like a secular nationalism. That's not really me. I mean, I really don't like Vox Day's personality, but I agree with his politics. I believe in the Christian nationalism that he is pushing, that you got to have both. Christianity is the most important thing. You know, the belief is the most important thing, but it doesn't discount the value of ethnic homogeneity within a country. So that's all.
Okay, Brundle, Kyle, you get 2 minutes before we go back to Kevin.
Certainly. So I am intimately familiar with groups that spiral into madness, and it's a very familiar experience to me to have a large group of people just hate me because I'm telling the truth, and that's fine. I like that. I like conflict. I thrive on conflict. I thrive on trying to improve myself, improve my arguments, improve my discourse. Okay, I don't mind that in the least, and there's no reason why I should mind that. In terms of who should watch their words, you must watch your words, not me. You are the ones who are marginalized, not me. You are in America, and you talk about your dream about what America could become. Your dream is absurd and is not held by the vast majority of Americans. You must watch your words, not me.
Why don't you put your half-baked ideas back in the oven, dude?
Your ideas are half-baked. You have no idea what America is, and
like,
you have no idea what America will become.
Somebody clip this. Somebody clip this, and we'll just get it. We'll get it so everybody can see it. Because if more people saw you, Kyle, like I wouldn't be marginalized. They would be begging for me. They would be begging for somebody like me to solve the problem.
From Americans, and you are wrong.
They're like, this problem requires a solution.
People do not like people who blame everyone else.
Finally, we need a solution, like a final solution.
Okay. Enough talk about the final solution, Brundle. I talked to you about that. You can't do that.
I don't know what. I'm just saying a solution to the problem.
No, you're talking about the oven. You're talking about final solution.
I said his idea is going in oven.
Yeah, we all know what you're saying.
They're half baked.
Yeah, we know what you're saying.
I'm not saying anything, dude. Like I said, I started it off with saying I don't want genocide. I said that.
Okay.
That's what I'm.
Okay, so
Let
what we have here,
out. Let them out.
It's a basic cultural difference. So turn the other cheek is not a Jewish approach. When, as a Jew, when you're attacked, you fight back. You don't turn the other cheek. As a Christian, when you're attacked, often you will turn the other cheek.
And those are American values too, by the way.
Well, I think we should be done with that. That's got to end. Let's go.
Yeah, well, how would we get done with your bullshit, Brundlefly?
We got to study. No, we got to study. We got to study alt-right Torah and listen to Melky and Luke, who taught us that we ought to have dual morality, and people with dual passports and dual citizenship can get the fuck out.
Yeah, people who talk about how Americans get out of the country should get the fuck out of the country, bitch.
Please buy a drink. Please support your local McDonald's. Those are hardworking people, and you've sat there long enough. Go buy them a cafe or Diet Coke or.
Okay, Brundle, you said people with dual morality and dual allegiances should get out. So you're essentially saying that people like your wife should leave because pretty much everyone but Northern Europeans operate by dual morality.
I think the dunking of water, the dunking of heads, baptism should be enough. I mean, look, I still believe that there is a solution. Something we've been talking about on this show is that there is a divide between Christians and Jews, particularly Ashkenazi Jews and Europeans, right? I mean, this is a millennia-old conflict. As they say, 109 times Jews have been expelled for whatever reason. In my opinion, for having the kind of chutzpah that Kyle displays, okay? Now, how do we stop the cycle? The cycle's not good for anybody. No, I don't, the cycle's not good for anybody. So what do? I personally think, I think it's a religious solution. I think Jews basically need to stop standing apart. They need to assimilate. This is if this is the melting pot, not the salad bowl. We all need to assimilate. And Judaism doesn't seem to be cult compatible in the long term alongside Christianity. These conflicts emerge. So the synagogues. I know what the laws are. Okay, I'm just saying, if we were going to radically change things to make it work, either Jews could open up religious conversion to allow all the Gentiles to become Jews, or vice versa. Based on my understanding of each religion's theology, it'd be much easier for the Jews to become Christians I don't. So what about that proposal? Because we clearly have a problem. We clearly have a problem, and I know Kyle says we shouldn't talk about it and everything, but like it is so fundamental. As I point out, like why when I argue with Kyle or we argue with Kyle, and the only people that support Kyle are Jews, and you'll have Levi in the chat going, I don't know why Kyle's Jewishness matters or whatever. It's like because the only people that agree with Kyle are Jews. So like, what are we supposed to think? Like, there's clearly a Jewish Christian divide over whether what Kyle says has any validity.
You keep saying Jewish Christian. How many people in the chat do you think are Christians versus pagans?
Dude, there's no fucking pagans, man.
Northern. Many people believe that Christianity is worshiping a Jew on a stick.
15 of them. They're
Brundlefly,
loud as hell. I'll give it to you.
Christianity is worshiping a Jew on a stick, and people talking about how Christianity is cucked and inherently.
No, it's not worshiping Jew on a stick, but that's a cool talking point. I like that.
That's what I've heard. That's what I've heard in the chat, and I've heard about how people who worship a Jew can never be truly woke on the JQ. How people who worship a Jew are fundamentally that's inimical to white identity. That's what I've heard in the chat. So, and in these communities, so it's not a Christian versus Jewish divide; it's an anti-Semite versus Jewish divide. The fact that some politician tacitly accepted some number does not make it official, statistics.
What about 6 million? Would that be more accurate?
6 million is a number of Jews that were slaughtered by anti-Semitic little bitches.
Whoa. Hey, I don't agree with that number. Just because that number's written down, bro. Like, why are you questioning the official genocide numbers of Iraq? How dare you? How dare
an arbitrary number, which is only
frankly, that's anti-Semitic. Since Arabs are Semites. You're the anti-Semite. You're the anti-Semite.
Holocaust denial is an indication of mental illness and complete divorce from reality.
So is Iraq genocide denial.
The only source for 500,000 is
anti-Semitic
propaganda. The only source for that 500,000 is Iraqi propaganda. It has no support in documents that were found after the invasion. It's just nonsense. It's just a slur against America. It's just slander against America. Whereas the Holocaust is a well-documented historical event which could not be fake because it involved the disappearance of millions and millions of people, an entire demographic in Europe. To compare the two is mentally ill, and it's just another example of the mental illness that pervades this community and which prevents it from having any success at all.
Yeah, I mean, even outside that, like just online, I see it's just it's like a form of dirty, like as if the debate or the argument is this life or death situation. So people are willing, if you're in a life or death situation, fair fighting is sort of out the window. Like you're gonna kick a guy in the nuts or gouge his eyes. Like the point is kill or be killed, and that's sort of analogous to how I see Jews debate arguments. Like they have to win, and they will, like I said earlier, like Kyle clings to theses and then can just argue eternally, even when it's just so ridiculous on its face. Like as I used the example of the rabbit hole we went down on the great deal that the United States government offered the Native Americans.
But I want more of your personal experiences. Like you've now gotten to argue with Jews.
Here, I don't have to necessarily tie it into my own.
You don't have to talk about your wife, but you've gotten to meet Jews, and you've had arguments with Jews in your real life
this is
off
what
the internet.
Well, okay, it's the same thing. It's always like it's the internet. I mean, I've probably had a greater volume of in-depth arguments with Jews on the internet than I have my entire life combined. Okay, so this would be the best source of information, but it definitely the pattern holds true. And I would just say that the thing is like when we do this cross-cultural exchange, like what Kyle interprets as a warning is basically feedback saying like, listen, dude, like to our ears, what we hear is just so unacceptable by our norms. That you need to understand that, because like if he were face to face with somebody, this is not saying I would hit him in the face. It's just I would tell my son, like, don't go around doing silly shit or you'll get your ass beat. That's not a threat. Like I'm going to beat your ass. It's saying, dude, like how you're acting I would not be surprised if some reasonable person, knocked you the fuck out.
Okay, I want to get
knocked the fuck out, Brundlefly. You better watch your words.
Shut the fuck up. You little twerp. Get fucking laid first before you talk to me. You call me fucking marginalized? You don't have a fucking wife.
Keep whining about your life, Brundlefly, and keep denying the Holocaust and talking about how I better watch my words. I don't give a fuck what you have to say.
Kyle, just stop. Just stop.
Okay, I want to get.
I'm trying to seriously tell you. You take it so fucking wrong, dude. This whole fucking time, like, you're the fucking one that's out of fucking line. The entire world
you're out of line.
Fucking
you're a Holocaust denier talking about
you
how
have
I
the
need to
same
watch my
fucking
words.
problem that Church of Entropy has. You're totally delusional. When everybody disagrees with you, it's not everybody else's fault.
I would be afraid in real life.
It's like, why does everybody hate me? It must be everybody else's fucking problem.
Come on, this is embarrassing.
Because you don't show your face.
Everybody else's problem. I don't show my face.
You're afraid,
Fuck you.
not me.
Fuck you. One day I'm going to show my face. I put my dick in your mouth, you fucking faggot.
You don't show your face because you're afraid. I show my face because I'm not afraid because we live in
Luke, come on, Luke.
Where Holocaust denial is not acceptable.